Welcome back to the special show from Dreamforce 2011, where we're getting you all the perspectives from the cloud computing industry. Clearly, one of the highlights of this event was Vivek Kundra, the former CIO of the US government, where he talked to us specifically about his cloud-first policy, as well as what lies ahead for him. Vivek, thank you so much for talking to NDTV. My first question is largely about your term as CIO. It was fairly action-packed, if I can call it that. You saw the focus of new technologies, especially your cloud-first policy was much talked about. As you look back, what would your biggest achievements be as CIO?
Well, I think as I reflect on the past 2.5 years, the biggest achievement has been to actually, number one, save taxpayers billions of dollars. We were able to save $3 billion by cracking down on wasteful spending and shifting to more innovative technologies. Number two was to actually be much more transparent as a republic by engaging the American people, be very transparent around how the government was working, to make sure that we were going after the most innovative minds across the country to help co-create some of the solutions, because the government does not have a monopoly on the best ideas and the best thinking. That is why it's critical to engage the people of any republic. Number three, I think, would be to actually make sure that from a security perspective, that we're engaged with the global community as we look at emerging threats around cyber warfare and organized crime, and making sure that we're putting the appropriate protections in place.
So when you took over in 2009, what were the biggest challenges you faced besides the $80 billion federal IT budget itself?
So very quickly, one of the first things I did is I launched this thing called the IT dashboard. And the idea was to shine light on the $80 billion worth of IT investments across the board. And I literally took the picture of every CIO in the United States government, put it right next to the IT project that they were responsible for, and displayed publicly whether it was on budget or not, how far behind it was, and whether the project was performing or not. And very quickly, the sheer act of doing that, and President Obama then got online and started looking at it. We took a picture of that, put it online. Very quickly, CIOs started terminating projects that weren't working. And that simple notion of being open, transparent, and participatory led to meaningful savings in the billions of dollars for the U.S. government.
Also, one of the highlights during your term was the cloud-first policy that you brought into place within the U.S. government itself. Take us through the policy itself and the impact that it's had on the government spending on IT itself.
Well, so when I first came into office, one of the first things I did, as I mentioned, was institute this cloud-first policy, and I actually launched it in the Valley at the NASA Ames Research Center. Sure. 2.5 years later, we've got Darwinian pressure in the federal government in terms of competition, which is very healthy. Companies that have never competed for federal business, like Amazon and Google and Salesforce, are actually competing vigorously. And it's great as a private citizen now and as a taxpayer, because the savings are in the hundreds of millions of dollars. The old IT model, what I call the IT cartel, the way these problems are solved is by throwing more bodies at any problem at exorbitant hourly rates. So you would see projects. I remember sitting in a meeting in the state of Virginia where I had a vendor convincing me that they'd done a lot of work. After 2 years, they basically produced a book for over $40 million. And there was nothing that any customer was really using. Sure. And as I looked at what was going on in Washington, D.C. at the local level, too, project after project wasn't performing. When I came to the federal level, I saw this one IT project that the federal government had been trying to implement for 10 years and had spent $850 million, and nothing worked. Very quickly, I realized that that was the wrong approach, the wrong policy, and I instituted a cloud-first policy. And the reason for that was, with cloud solutions, you get value on day number one. You don't have to wait 10 years and spend $850 million to actually use it.
Take us through your experience working with US President Barack Obama, both personally and professionally. Did it help having him? Was he as technology savvy, and did he push down a lot of your proposals, especially which were fairly revolutionary in the cloud-first policy, for example?
Well, so what's been really exciting for me has been that I've been fortunate to have worked for a president that actually gets technology, is extremely supportive of it, and is leading from the top. A lot of times I think people may end up in certain roles where they don't have a leader who believes in the work that they do. And throughout my tenure, the president has been extremely supportive and has pushed really, really hard. So when I saw him in the Oval Office as I was leaving, we talked about all the reforms that we've driven, and it was very exciting to have been part of an administration and to serve for this president.
Also in a recent article, you talked about the opportunity for emerging countries like India to adopt cloud computing technologies, given that there has been no legacy IT infrastructure, largely especially for the government itself. What kind of opportunities do you see? You have this huge UID project that the government is implementing, where part of it is on the cloud. What kind of future opportunities you believe that the Indian government can leverage? And given your experience within the government itself, how difficult or easy is it for them to implement something like this?
Well, I think, first and foremost, I think Nandan Nilekani is doing an excellent job. I met with him when I was in India last as I looked at how the UID project was progressing. I love the fact that they had this dashboard that showed you the progress, and it's going to fundamentally change the way services are delivered within India. So there you have an interesting implementation that's going to be a game changer for decades to come. And I think from a cloud computing perspective, whether you're operating at a local level, state level, or a central level, the opportunities to save are huge. You can cut costs by 50%, but that's not the real reason to move there, right? The reason to move there is because the government has a very difficult time to compete for the best talent when it comes to whether it's cybersecurity or whether it's developers. And it's really, really important to make sure that you concentrate talent, and some of these companies are doing some really amazing things. And technology inherently is a business where things change really, really fast. So there's huge opportunities to apply these web-scale efficiencies across the entire public sector, whether it's at the federal, state, or local level.
So what next for Vivek Kundra? Are you looking at any role back in the government side, or would you rather be an outsider?
Well, right now I'm very focused, obviously, at Harvard as a fellow. I'm going to be doing that for the next 5 months in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And it's a time for me as I reflect on the last decade in public service as I've spent at it. And I've been fortunate to have worked at every level of government, from city to state to county to federal. And now I'm looking forward to engaging in the global dialogue of the potential of technology, not just in the context of how we can disrupt the public sector, but what does it mean as far as healthcare is concerned? What does it mean as far as education is concerned? How do we look at the digital divide, and how do we make sure that people around the world have the same opportunities as those that are connected to the global grid?
Indian IT services companies are already tapping the cloud computing opportunities on their own or by partnering with companies like Salesforce. But India itself represents a huge addressable market given the growing smartphone population. Looking to drive its dominance in the consumer loan space even further, Bajaj FinServ turned to a cloud computing CRM solution from Salesforce. Deepak Reddy of Bajaj FinServ says the idea was not just to reduce investment in IT, but boost speed of loan approvals. And the results have shown.
Our OPEX in processing is down by 62%. Our revenue per customer, it's 300% of what it was just 2 years ago. We process an application today in 3 minutes flat, and this thing, it used to take in the past a minimum of 4 to 6 hours to do. And this is very, very compelling, very, very strong value proposition to a customer and to us.
Indian IT services companies like Wipro and HCL are already on the cloud computing bandwagon and expect this business to be a major growth driver going forward.
We are expecting to double our revenues from the cloud business every year, right, for the next 3 years. Because right now the base is small, there's a lot of customer interest, a lot of investments going in terms of solutions, capability building, and building applications also on the cloud.
I would say that it is very exciting because one, that it is the initial wave that we are catching, okay, and we definitely want to ride the wave that comes with the cloud. From the investment perspective, this is one of the biggest investment area that we have been looking at.
But the real driver for adoption of cloud computing technologies in India is expected to be the small and medium business segment who require minimal IT investment.
They don't feel that they have to do a lot of investment, both in terms of hardware and people around it and maintenance. So from that standpoint, from a cost standpoint, they feel very comfortable because it's more a pay-as-you-go model. But when we talk about their vision and trying to actually translate that vision into the processes, they feel more comfortable.
According to Springboard research, the era of the mobile enterprise is imminent in India, with the enterprise mobile workforce expected to grow to 205 million by 2015.
It is in step one of the start. Okay? It is the beginning of the beginning for me. When I find out that smartphone penetration approaches 10% of phone penetration, you have reached a trigger point. Because then suddenly, public-private partnership for infrastructure transformation becomes real.
India does not have so much difficulty in justifying or transitioning from legacy infrastructure. In the same way that countries like India have been able to leapfrog an entire generation of wired telecommunications to go straight to wireless as the norm, India and other countries with limited infrastructure legacy are going to be able to leapfrog an entire generation of building data centers to move straight to the acquisition of state-of-the-art services that work better, at lower cost, with lower technical and schedule risk, and thereby become the brands that other brands would like to emulate.
India is already the fastest growing software as a service market in the Asia-Pacific region, but analysts say there are challenges to adoption of cloud computing in India.
The challenge is right now one of education. Organizations, decision makers, both business and IT, don't fully understand the basic concepts of cloud computing, but more importantly, the implications for their organization, how they identify, source, and ultimately procure the services they require.
Currently in India, the cloud is being adopted by enterprises in the telecom, IT, BPO and BFSI sectors. But according to experts, the real untapped markets will be education, healthcare and government. So clearly driving innovation and the rapid adoption of cloud applications and services will benefit both the Indian IT industry and enterprises. That's all we have for you from Dreamforce 2011. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned to NDTV.